welcome back to my studio. This is the last project of the year, so think of it kind of as a final project. So it'll have two parts to it, and we'll go over that. So if you open your Google Slides document, you'll see that the project is accordion fold artist books. Now I know I had a chance to show some artist books to the 8th grade and talk about this project, so you've had a little bit of a preview. So basically what an accordion fold artist book is something kind of like this, where it opens up like an accordion, and it ends up being something that you can view from the front or something from the back, but you can see I didn't really do much to the back of mine. If you want to do something to the back of yours, that is fine. We're going to be making simpler ones because this one I know is a little bit complicated. The idea of books as art has become very popular in the contemporary art world, and there are people who call themselves book artists. They have their book art exhibitions. But the idea started quite long ago, like when you think of the Book of Kells. Here it is being exhibited at the library in Dublin. The monks who worked on illuminated manuscripts were really thinking of the interaction between text and image and making a work of art a beautiful work of art. And this idea was carried on by the 19th century artist William Blake. You might know his poem, Tiger, Tiger, Burning Bright in the Forests of the Night. Maybe you had to memorize it for school. This is how he illustrated his poem, The Tiger. These are actually prints. He was a printmaker, and he would make many different artist books. Here's another example of this poem here, The Voice of the Bard. And his illustration for it. So you can see he was really thinking of making the text very attractive too, and thinking about how to make it kind of combine and synthesize with his illustrations. And so here's an example of a contemporary art gallery full of these artist books, and you can see here there's a little glove there. They'll have gloves out. You put the gloves on and you can look through the books. You can walk around them. Here's some examples of some artists that have really been having a lot of fun with pushing the boundaries of what an artist book can be. Here's one with shell book covers. I believe this is clay put onto paper. And this is an example of an accordion fold artist book. Usually artist books involve something called mixed media, where they will combine printmaking with collage, or drawing with collage. These are some prints that the artist has cut out and glued onto their book. This is an artist who used photography, so if you want to use photography in your book, that is fine too. This is again some, they look like monoprints that have been cut up and used in a collage for an artist book. The artist William Kentridge, who is a really interesting South African artist, has created some artist books using newspapers, and then he cuts out these silhouettes out of black construction paper and glues those on to make his artist books. So how to start with this project? So you want to print out this document that I've attached to your assignment. And your first step is you want to choose a poem or a quote that is meaningful to you. It needs to be a poem that you that is either in the poems that I've included at the back of this, or a poem that you've studied at RAA, or an excerpt from a speech that you've studied at RAA. It can be anything from 5th grade and up, as much as we all love Robert Louis Stevenson. You guys are a little old for that in terms of the type of ideas you want to be working with. And then you have your artist book project proposal. So what you want to think of is you want to use the nicest paper you have. So I have this watercolor paper. You want to think about the size of your book. This is a final project, so but I don't, you might also have limited time, so if filling up something this big is overwhelming to you, you can even cut it in half. So I'm going to cut this in half to make a smaller book. But another option, if you like to work big, you could glue or tape two of these together. But for the sake of time and so you don't get too overwhelmed, we are going to use this and we're going to fold it. And this can always be something you want to practice. Sometimes it works out well. Other times it doesn't, but hopefully, let's see. We have 4. So, oh, that's perfect. So you want to think about the 4 parts of your book. And, actually, yeah. So page 1, 2, 3, and 4. So actually this can be your front cover. So you want to label them and you want to make a mock-up because as you can see, it can get a little confusing and usually you have to add on to whatever piece of paper you fold. So you can see that I'm going, well, actually this works out well. My back cover is going to be here. So you want to think about having a front cover, an interior area, and your back cover because you want it to be a book that you can hold like this and also a book that you can open up. And you can see it'll be freestanding. And so you want to sort of start thinking about first the poem that you chose and how you want to illustrate it. So the requirements for this project are you want to include some text. You definitely don't have to write out the whole poem. You could include maybe your favorite line from it. You could have your favorite line on the front cover and the back cover. It could kind of sprawl across the page. So you want to make what's called a mock-up. And that's going to be the first part of your assignment that's due on the 20th is either here or, well, actually sketch it out here because you probably will need to go through this a couple times before you find an idea that you really like. And that's how artists work. They do a lot of sketching before they do their final piece. So I want to see a little drawing for each of these of what they're going to look like. And then you might want to redraw them on your mock-up too, just to really see how it's going to work in 3 dimensions. If you want to do a design on the back, that's totally fine too. And the 6th grade, actually, they've done some artist books with me before at the beginning of the year, so they might be a little familiar with us. So supposing, for example, I chose Dreams by Langston Hughes, you just write what you chose there. And then hold fast to dreams for if dreams die. Maybe I want to think about just writing, you can even write just hold fast to dreams is going to be there. And then maybe you want to have a bird going across your page. Maybe you want the barren field frozen with snow. Maybe I'm going to add a little moon. You want this to be fairly high quality though, so really take your time with it. This can just be quite sketchy, but when you go to do your final, which will be due the 29th, you want it to look like really nice drawing. You can do watercolor. You can do marker or colored pencil. It could all just be drawn. It could also include some collage elements. So be thinking about that. And then one other thing is you want to really think about, just like William Blake did with his text, really creating some beautiful lettering. So you can make a grid for your text so it all comes up looking even, kind of like the 7th and 8th grade, we did that for our illuminated manuscripts. Here's some example of different fonts. If you want to print out your wording too in a font that you like and glue it on, that's fine too. But be creative, and no bubble letters is the only rule for your lettering. So if you want to choose a poem that's different than something you've learned at RAA and something different than the ones I've included at the back, just send me a quick comment in class comments or a private comments, just to make sure I've approved it, make sure it's school appropriate. And so have a lot of fun with this, and I hope you all have a great summer. 6th and 7th grade, I hope to see you in person in September, and 8th grade, congratulations. Take care, everyone.